The transport ship Silver Horizon moved quietly through deep space, its long body glowing softly against the dark stars. It was one of the largest civilian ships in the galaxy, built to carry hundreds of passengers across safe trade routes. Merchants, diplomats, workers, and nobles all traveled together on it, though they rarely mixed. Everyone had their own reasons for being there. Evan Hale stood near the cargo lift, holding a small tool case in his hand. He was human, and that alone made him stand out. His skin was pale compared to many species around him, his body smaller than the armored giants of the car, and far less graceful than the tall, glowing Liurny. Some aliens glanced at him with curiosity. Others ignored him completely. Evan did not mind. He had learned long ago that in space, being unnoticed was often safer. He was not a soldier or a hero. He was a systems technician from Earth, hired on a short-term contract to help maintain older ships that still used mixed technology. The Silver Horizon was advanced, but parts of it were old, built when humans were still new to space travel. That was why he was here. As he walked through the wide hallway, lights reflected off smooth metal walls. Alien voices echoed softly. Languages mixed together, translated by small devices worn on collars or wrists. Evan listened without paying much attention. His job was simple: check systems, fix what broke, get paid, go home. That was all he wanted. He passed a group of armored guards standing near a sealed corridor. Their armor was black and gold, polished to perfection. Their weapons were real military grade, far above what was normal for a civilian ship. Evan slowed his steps slightly but did not stare. Guards like that usually meant someone important was on board. Royal or corporate, he thought. Either way, not my problem. He reached the engineering access point and placed his hand on the panel. The door slid open, and the familiar hum of machines welcomed him. Inside it was quiet and warm. He relaxed a little. Hours passed as he worked. He checked power relays, ran diagnostics, and replaced a worn connector. Everything was normal, too normal. Then the lights flickered. Evan froze. He looked up at the ceiling as the soft white glow dimmed, then returned. A second later, the ship shuddered lightly, like something far away had hit it. His communicator buzzed. "Attention maintenance crew," a calm alien voice said. "Minor system instability detected in the mid-residential deck. All available technicians, please respond." Evan sighed and closed his tool case. "Of course," he muttered. He followed the corridor signs toward the residential deck. The area was quieter than the main halls, filled with private cabins and guarded doors. The air felt tense. He noticed more guards than before, moving quickly but silently. As he reached a junction, a sharp sound echoed down the hall, metal scraping against metal. Then a soft cry. Evan stopped. He hesitated. Calling security was the smart thing to do. Walking away was safer. But the sound came again, weaker this time. Someone was hurt. He moved forward slowly, keeping close to the wall. The corridor curved, and there, near a partially open door, he saw her. She was not human. She lay on the floor, her body wrapped in flowing fabric that shimmered like liquid light. Her skin was smooth and pale blue, glowing faintly. Long silver hair spread around her head, and her eyes, large and luminous, were filled with pain and fear. Evan's breath caught. He had seen many alien species before, but nothing like her. Even injured and frightened, she was breathtaking. He pushed the thought away and knelt beside her. "Hey," he said softly, keeping his hands visible. "I'm not going to hurt you." Her eyes widened when she saw him. Fear flashed across her face. She tried to move, but her body trembled and she cried out again. "You're injured," Evan said. "Let me help." She studied him, confusion mixing with fear. Then she nodded slowly. Evan carefully scanned her with his handheld device. "Energy burn," he murmured. "Non-lethal but strong." Someone had attacked her. He gently helped her sit up, supporting her weight. She was lighter than she looked, too light. "We need to get you somewhere safe," he said. "Can you walk?" She tried, failed, and shook her head. Footsteps echoed in the distance. Evan's heart began to race. He looked around quickly and spotted a maintenance hatch nearby. Without overthinking, he lifted her into his arms. She gasped softly but did not resist. He moved fast, opening the hatch and slipping inside just as voices echoed down the corridor. The hatch closed quietly. Inside, the space was narrow and dim, filled with cables and soft blue lights. Evan leaned against the wall, breathing hard. She looked up at him, her glowing eyes searching his face. "You are human," she said slowly, her voice musical but weak. "Yeah," Evan replied. "Name S. Evan." She hesitated, then spoke. "Thank you, Evan." Before he could ask her name, his communicator buzzed again. "Security alert," the voice announced. "All passengers remain in your cabins. Suspected internal threat detected." Evan cursed under his breath. He looked back at her. "Who are you?" She did not answer right away. Instead, she reached up and touched the fabric at her neck. The shimmer faded, revealing a symbol beneath, ancient, complex, and unmistakable. Evan's eyes widened. He recognized it from news feeds and history lessons. Royal, not just any royal, galaxy-wide royal. His mind raced. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me." She watched his reaction carefully. "You know what it means?" "Yeah," he said slowly. "I do." Silence filled the narrow space. "You are afraid now," she said. Evan shook his head. "No, just surprised." That was true. He was terrified, but not of her. "Someone tried to kill you," he said. "That means this ship isn't safe." She lowered her gaze. "I was not supposed to be discovered. My presence here was secret." "Not anymore," Evan replied. "But right now you need medical help." She studied him again as if seeing him for the first time. "Why did you help me?" He frowned slightly. "Because you were hurt." "That is not how most beings answer," she said softly. "Well," Evan shrugged, "humans are weird like that." A faint smile touched her lips before pain crossed her face again. Evan checked his scanner. "Your energy levels are unstable. I can stabilize you temporarily, but we need a med unit." She nodded. "I trust you." The words hit him harder than he expected. He worked quickly, using a portable field patch. As he did, the ship shook again, harder this time. Alarms sounded faintly through the walls. She gasped. "They are accelerating their plan." "Who is they?" Evan asked. "Those who believe my death will bring them power," she replied. "Figures," he muttered. When he finished, her breathing steadied. Color returned slightly to her skin. "Okay," he said. "We move when it's quiet." She reached out and gently held his wrist. Her touch was warm. "Evan," she said, "if they find me again, they will kill you." He met her eyes. "Then we don't let them find you." For a moment, she simply stared at him. Then something changed in her expression. Not fear, not pain, wonder. The lights flickered again. Somewhere on the silver horizon, a plan was unfolding, one that would change not only their lives but how the galaxy saw humanity. And Evan Hale, a simple human technician, had no idea that by helping a stranger in a hallway, he had just stepped into the heart of it all. The maintenance corridor vibrated softly as the ship adjusted its course. Evan stayed still for several seconds, listening. The alarms faded into a distant hum, but the danger did not feel gone. He looked at the alien woman in his arms. Her eyes were half closed, but she was awake. "Can you stand now?" he asked quietly. She nodded and carefully slid down from his grip. She was unsteady but stronger than before. Evan opened the hatch a little and checked the hallway. Empty. No guards, no passengers. "Okay," he said. "We move slow and quiet." They stepped out into the corridor. The lights were dimmed to emergency levels, painting the walls in soft blue. Evan walked slightly ahead, scanning corners and listening. He guided her toward a secondary maintenance route that ran parallel to the main decks. Few people used it and fewer still knew how to access it. As they walked, she studied him with quiet focus. "You do not ask many questions," she said. "Yeah," Evan replied. "Right now, questions can wait." She seemed to accept that. They reached a junction where the corridor split. Evan paused and checked his wrist display. Medbay is locked down, he said. Security protocols. Her shoulders lowered slightly. Then we are trapped. Not yet, he said. There's a maintenance clinic, old, mostly automated. Not on the main system. She tilted her head. You know this ship well. I read the schematics, Evan replied. Most people don't bother. They moved again. The ship shuddered once more, stronger than before. Somewhere something exploded. Evan felt it through the floor. What was that? He asked. A test, she replied calmly. They are testing how much damage they can cause without destroying the ship. That's comforting, Evan muttered. They reached a small door marked with faded symbols. Evan tapped a sequence into the panel. The door hesitated, then opened with a tired hiss. Inside was a compact medical room. Dust covered unused equipment. The lights flickered on slowly. Sit, Evan said, pointing to the bed. She did. Evan closed the door and locked it manually. He moved to the medical console and powered it up. The system struggled, then responded. Come on, he whispered. The scanner activated, projecting a soft field around her. Data scrolled across the screen in symbols Evan barely understood, but the system flagged the injury clearly. She'll live, the machine announced in a flat tone. Energy trauma, stabilized. Evan let out a breath he did not realize he was holding. She watched his reaction. You were worried. Of course I was, he said. Why? She asked again. He paused. Because leaving someone to die isn't how I was raised. She absorbed this quietly. As the machine worked, Evan leaned against the wall. His body was tense, ready to move at any sound. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by distant vibrations. You saved me, she said suddenly. Still in progress, Evan replied. You risked your life without knowing who I was. I knew you were in trouble, he said. That was enough. She looked down at her hands. In my world, help is rarely free. Well, Evan said, humans mess that rule up. A faint smile appeared on her lips again. The door panel blinked red. Evan straightened instantly. They found us, she said softly. Not yet, Evan replied. That's a system scan. They're sweeping deck by deck. He moved quickly, pulling open a side panel behind the medical unit. Inside was a narrow crawlspace. We wait here, he said. What about you? She asked. I'll block the door and hide the signature. She hesitated. If they capture you. I know, he said, but I'm harder to notice than a royal symbol. She reached out and touched his arm. I will remember this. He nodded and helped her into the crawlspace. Once she was inside, he sealed it and returned to the main room. He powered down systems and scattered tools to make the room look unused. Footsteps approached. Voices spoke outside the door, sharp and confident. Energy trace confirmed, one said. Open it, another replied. The door panel lit up as someone tried to override it. Evan held his breath. He activated a local feedback loop he had built earlier. The panel sparked and went dark. Malfunction, the voice growled. Move on. The footsteps faded. Evan stayed still for a long time. When it was safe, he reopened the crawlspace. It's clear, he whispered. She emerged slowly. Her movements were smoother now, stronger. You tricked them, she said. I delayed them, Evan corrected. They'll be back. She looked at him with new intensity. You are not weak. Never said I was, Evan replied. Another alarm sounded, closer this time. This ship is becoming unstable, she said. They will force an evacuation. Then we blend in, Evan said. Passengers, workers, anyone moving, she nodded. There is something you should know. He looked at her. Go on. My name is Lyrene Valkesh, she said, daughter of the Star Throne. Evan stared at her. That's big, he said carefully. Yes, she replied, and dangerous. No kidding. They will not stop, she continued. My death would break an alliance. Some believe chaos will benefit them. Evan rubbed his face. So you're basically a walking disaster. She almost laughed. Almost. They moved out into the corridor again. This time the ship was alive with motion. Passengers hurried toward escape zones. Guards shouted orders. Smoke drifted from damaged panels. Evan pulled a spare jacket from a supply cart and handed it to her. "Cover the glow," he said. She wrapped it around herself. The light of her skin dimmed. They merged into the crowd. As they moved, Evan noticed something. Guards passed them without a second glance. Drones scanned others but skipped over him. He frowned. "Something wrong?" she asked. "They're ignoring us," he said. "That's strange." "They do not see humans as threats," she said softly. "Not yet." Evan felt something cold settle in his chest. They reached a wide hall where a damaged section had sealed off part of the ship. Panic rose as passengers realized there was no clear path. A heavy alien stumbled and fell. No one stopped. Evan did. He helped lift the alien, guiding them to safety. Others followed his lead. A small flow formed, calm replacing panic. Lyrene watched him carefully. "You lead without command," she said. "People just need someone to move first," Evan replied. A security drone hovered closer. Its sensors flickered. Lyrene tensed. Evan stepped forward, blocking its view. He waved his tool case and spoke calmly. "Maintenance," he said. "System fault." The drone hesitated, then moved on. Lyrene's eyes widened slightly. They reached a temporary safe zone near the outer ring. Medical teams worked fast. Guards held the perimeter. Lyrene stopped. "This is as far as I can go unseen," she said. "From here my guards will find me." "And then?" Evan asked. "They will remove you from my presence," she replied. "For your safety." He exhaled slowly. "Figures." She faced him fully now. "Evan Hale, you have shown me something rare, courage without reward." He shifted uncomfortably. "Just doing my job." "No," she said firmly. "You were doing what was right." A group of elite guards entered the area. Their eyes scanned the crowd. Lyrene straightened her posture. The air around her seemed to change. Before stepping away, she leaned close to Evan and spoke softly. "This is not the end," she said. "I promise." Then she walked forward, pulling back the jacket just enough for her royal mark to shine. Gasps spread. Guards dropped to one knee. Evan watched as they surrounded her, protecting her with absolute loyalty. In seconds, she was gone. The noise of the ship returned. The crowd moved. Life continued. Evan stood alone, his heart still racing. He had boarded the Silver Horizon as a simple human technician. Now, somewhere beyond the crowd, the most powerful princess in the galaxy knew his name. And the people who wanted her dead had seen what a single human could do when pushed. They would not forget. Neither would he. The ship did not calm after the princess was taken away. In fact, everything became worse. Evan felt it immediately. The air on the Silver Horizon changed. Guards moved faster. Doors sealed and unsealed without warning. Drones hovered longer, scanning faces more carefully. The emergency lights stayed on, casting long shadows across the halls. Evan walked alone now, tool case in his hand, trying to look like just another worker. But his heart was still pounding. He kept replaying the last moment in his mind. Lyrene stepping forward, revealing who she was, and disappearing behind a wall of elite guards. "This is not the end," she had said. He hoped she was right. He turned a corner and nearly collided with a security officer. The alien was tall, armored, with glowing red eyes behind a visor. "You," the officer said sharply. "Human." Evan stopped. "Yes. Identification." Evan handed over his work badge. The officer scanned it slowly, too slowly. "You were in the outer ring during the disturbance," the officer said. "Maintenance assignment," Evan replied calmly. "Power surge near the old medical wing." The officer stared at him for several seconds. Evan forced himself not to move. Finally, the officer handed the badge back. "You are cleared. Do not leave your assigned sector." "Understood," Evan said. He walked away without looking back. Only when he reached a quiet junction did he allow himself to breathe. "They're looking," he thought. "Not just for her, for anyone close to her." Evan changed direction. He did not go back to his assigned sector. Instead, he headed deeper into the ship, toward the system's core. If something big was happening, it would leave marks in the ship's systems. The core was guarded, but not heavily. Most threats were expected to come from outside, not within. Evan used his access code and slipped inside a secondary control room. The room hummed with energy. Data streams flowed across holographic panels. Evan connected his tool case and began reading logs. What he saw made his stomach tighten. Power reroutes, disabled alarms, security blind spots. Someone with high-level access was preparing the ship for something much worse than sabotage. This wasn't just about killing her, Evan murmured. This is about control. A sudden alert flashed. Unauthorized access detected. Evan cursed quietly and disconnected. Too late. The door behind him slid open. 3 figures entered, not ship security. Their armor was different, sleeker, darker, without insignia. One of them spoke. Evan Hale, human technician. Evan slowly turned. That's me. You interfered with a classified operation, the figure said. I fix broken machines, Evan replied. That's all. The figure tilted its head. You helped the princess. Evan did not answer. That silence confirms it, the figure said. You should not have mattered. Humans rarely do. Evan felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice steady. If you're going to kill me, get it over with. The figure laughed softly. No, you are more useful alive. Before Evan could react, the lights went out. Pain exploded in his side as something struck him. He stumbled back, hitting the console. Hands grabbed him, restraining him. You will answer questions, the voice said, and then you will disappear. A sudden blast rocked the room. The wall behind the attackers burst inward. Smoke and sparks filled the air. Shouts echoed. Through the smoke, armored figures charged in royal guards. On the ground, a commanding voice roared. The attackers turned their weapons, but it was too late. Stun fire filled the room. One fell, then another. Evan slid down the console, dizzy. Through blurred vision, he saw her. Lyrene stood at the doorway, flanked by guards. She wore armored robes now, marked with royal symbols. Her posture was tall, commanding. Her eyes found Evan instantly. Secure him, she ordered. Guards rushed forward, but Lyrene raised a hand. Gently, they helped Evan to his feet. His side hurt, but he was alive. You came back, Evan said weakly. I told you this was not the end, she replied. They moved quickly, escorting him through secured corridors. Alarms rang behind them as prisoners were taken and systems locked down. You were right, Evan said as they walked. This is bigger than you, she looked at him. Explain. He told her what he had found, the system changes, the blind spots, the preparation. They were not just trying to kill me, she said. They were planning to take the ship, and probably use it as leverage, Evan added. She nodded. A civilian ship full of diplomats would be a powerful weapon. They entered a command chamber. Screens showed different parts of the ship, some dark, some damaged. Officers moved quickly, issuing orders. Lyrene turned to Evan. You should be removed from this situation. Evan met her gaze. With respect, Princess, I think I'm already in it. She studied him for a long moment, then she gave a small nod. Very well, she said, but you will follow my orders. Fair deal, Evan replied. An officer approached. Princess, we have confirmed internal collaborators. They are attempting to reach the engine control section. Lyrene's jaw tightened. If they reach it, they can overload the drive. Evan stepped forward. There's an old manual control tunnel near the engines. It bypasses the main system. The officer frowned. That tunnel was sealed decades ago. Sealed, Evan said, but not destroyed. Lyrene looked at him. Can you access it? Yes, Evan said, but it's tight, dangerous. Then that is where we stop them, she said. They moved fast. The ship shook violently as fighting broke out in distant sections. Smoke filled some corridors. Evan led them through maintenance paths few others knew. As they ran, Lyrene kept pace beside him, her expression focused. You could have walked away, she said suddenly. Couldn't, Evan replied. Not after seeing what they were willing to do. Many would still choose safety, she said. Humans don't always choose the smart option, Evan said. We choose the right one, sometimes. They reached the sealed tunnel. Evan pried open the access panel, sparks flying. Inside was dark, narrow, and hot. "They're ahead of us," Evan said, checking his scanner. "Two, maybe three." Lyrene turned to her guards. "Hold here. No weapons fire inside. Too risky." "I'll go," Evan said. Lyrene grabbed his arm. "You are injured." "I'll manage," he replied. She hesitated, then nodded. "I am coming with you, Princess. This is my ship now," she said firmly, "and my responsibility." They crawled into the tunnel. The heat was intense. The hum of the engines vibrated through the walls. Ahead, voices echoed. Evans signaled for silence. They moved slowly. They spotted the attackers working on a control node, trying to force a manual override. Evan whispered, "If they succeed, the drive will spike." Lyrene nodded. "Then we stop them." Before Evan could act, one of the attackers turned and saw them. "Too late," the attacker snarled. The tunnel shook as the engine surged. Evan reacted without thinking. He lunged forward, slamming his tool case into the control node. Sparks exploded. The surge stopped abruptly. The force threw him back. He hit the tunnel wall hard. Pain flashed through his body. Lyrene cried out his name. Guards stormed in moments later, capturing the attackers. Evan lay still, breathing shallowly. Lyrene knelt beside him, her hands glowing faintly as she stabilized him. "You did it," she said softly. "You saved the ship." Evan managed a weak smile. "Told you humans are weird." The engine stabilized. The ship's systems slowly returned to normal. As Evan was carried out, Lyrene stood tall, looking at the crew and guards around her. "Remember this," she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "Today, a human stood between us and destruction. Let no one ever say again that humans are small." Across the silver horizon, the story spread. A human technician had faced conspirators, crawled into fire, and stopped a disaster with his own hands. And far beyond the ship, forces that watched the princess began to understand something new. Humans were no longer invisible. They were becoming dangerous. Evan woke to soft light and quiet sounds. For a moment, he did not know where he was. His body felt heavy, wrapped in warmth. A steady hum filled the air, calm and even. Slowly, memory returned, the tunnel, the heat, the explosion of sparks, Lyrene's voice calling his name. He tried to move. Pain answered, sharp but controlled. "Do not try yet," a gentle voice said. He turned his head. Lyrene stood beside the medical bed. She was no longer wearing armored robes. Instead, she wore simple clothing, elegant but quiet. Her glow was softer now. "You're alive," Evan said. "Yes," she replied. "And so are you, barely." He smiled weakly. "Guess that makes us even." She did not smile back. Her expression was serious, thoughtful. "You should not be alive," she said. "By all medical predictions, the engine feedback should have ended you." "Humans mess with predictions," Evan replied. She studied him closely. "Your species survives things that should destroy it, again and again." Evan shrugged as best he could. "We had practice." She turned slightly, looking through the transparent wall of the medical chamber. Beyond it, the ship was calmer but far from peaceful. Guards moved in constant patrols. Engineers worked around damaged systems. The silver horizon was wounded but still flying. "The conspirators are not finished," Lyrene said. "We captured many but not all." Evan frowned. "You think some escaped?" "I know they did," she replied. "And now they know something they did not before." "What's that?" Evan asked. "That humans will stand in their way." Evan was quiet for a moment. "That makes me a problem, doesn't it?" "Yes," Lyrene said honestly. "To them you are now a symbol." He exhaled slowly. "I never wanted to be that." "Symbols rarely choose themselves," she said. A chime sounded. A senior guard entered and bowed to Lyrene. "Princess," the guard said, "the emergency council is assembled. They request your presence." Lyrene nodded. "I will come." The guard hesitated, then looked at Evan. "The human." "He stays," Lyrene said firmly. The guard bowed again and left. Evan raised an eyebrow. "Emergency council. Representatives from several species," she explained. "They were traveling aboard this ship. Now they are afraid." "Of what?" Evan asked. Of losing control, she said. Later, Evan was moved into a hover chair and escorted to the council chamber. His movements were limited, but his mind was sharp. He noticed how many eyes followed him, some curious, some afraid, some hostile. The chamber was large and circular. Representatives sat in raised positions, each in their own cultural style. Some were tall and towering, others small and surrounded by devices. All of them watched Lyrene as she entered, and then many noticed Evan. Whispers spread. Lyrene took her place at the center. Evan was positioned beside her, slightly behind. This ship was attacked from within, Lyrene said clearly. Not by chance, not by accident, murmurs followed. These conspirators intended to seize control of the vessel and use its passengers as leverage, she continued. My death was only the first step. A representative rose. Princess, with respect, why was a civilian ship carrying such risk? Lyrene met the gaze calmly. Because the threat was already among us. Another voice cut in. And the human, why is he here? Lyrene gestured toward Evan. Because without him, this ship would now be a weapon or wreckage. Some representatives looked doubtful. A single human technician, one scoffed. Unlikely, Evan leaned forward slightly. I didn't do it alone, he said, but I didn't run either. The chamber went quiet. He acted without orders, Lyrene said, without promise of reward. He chose action when many froze. Silence stretched. Finally, a metallic-skinned representative spoke. Princess, are you suggesting humans should be elevated based on one individual? Lyrene shook her head. No, I am saying the galaxy has misunderstood humans. She turned slightly toward Evan. They are not loud conquerors. They do not seek domination, but when pushed, they do not break. Evan felt heat rise in his chest. He was not used to being spoken of like this. The council debated fiercely. Fear battled reason. Tradition clashed with reality. During it all, Evan watched and listened. He noticed something important. The conspirators had planted doubt long before this attack. Fear of change, fear of humans. After the session ended, Lyrene escorted Evan back to a secure observation deck. You handled that well, she said. I mostly stayed quiet, Evan replied. Sometimes that is strength, she said. They stood side by side, looking out at the stars. The ship drifted through a calm stretch of space now. You will not be allowed to leave quietly, Lyrene said. Evan nodded. I figured. There are those who will want you protected, she continued, and others who will want you silenced. Fun choices, Evan muttered. She turned to face him fully. I can offer you protection, a position within my escort, resources, safety. Evan looked at her, really looked. She was powerful, yes, beautiful, yes, but behind that was pressure, expectation, and danger. And if I say no, he asked, she did not hesitate, then I will respect it. That surprised him. I need to think, he said. Of course, she replied. Before they could speak further, alarms blared again. This time sharper, an officer rushed in. Princess, multiple unauthorized craft have dropped from hyperspace ahead of us. Lyrene's expression hardened. They have allies. Evan felt a chill. External now. Yes, she said. They mean to finish what they started. The ship's weapons powered up, but they were damaged. The Silver Horizon was not a warship. They are broadcasting demands, the officer said. They want control of the princess and the human. Evan blinked. Me specifically. Yes, Lyrene said. You are proof their assumptions were wrong. That cannot be allowed to spread. Outside the viewing port, dark shapes appeared, sleek ships, armed and confident. They think fear will make us surrender, Evan said. Lyrene looked at him. What do humans do when cornered? He smiled, slow and grim. We improvise. Evan requested access to the ship's auxiliary systems. Engineers hesitated, but Lyrene approved it. He worked fast, guiding teams through changes, rerouting power, creating false signatures, using the ship's damage as an advantage. They expect us to be weak, Evan said, so we let them think that. The enemy ships moved closer, weapons charging. Suddenly, the Silver Horizon went dark. No lights, no signals. The attackers paused. Inside the ship, everything switched to manual. Evan had cut non-essential systems and masked their energy output. "They'll think we're dead in space," an officer said. "Give it a minute," Evan replied. When the enemy ships moved in closer, confident, the Silver Horizon released a burst of stored energy, blinding sensors, disrupting targeting systems. At the same time, Lyrene ordered a distress signal sent through an old diplomatic channel the attackers had ignored. Allied patrol ships responded. The ambush became a trap. The enemy ships scattered, some disabled, some fleeing. Cheers echoed through the command deck. Evan slumped back, exhausted. Lyrene stood beside him, pride clear in her eyes. "You saved us again," she said. "We saved each other," Evan replied. As the danger faded, news spread fast, across the ship, across nearby systems. A human had outthought and outlasted enemies who believed themselves superior, not with brute force, but with calm, courage, and creativity. As Evan was taken back to medical care, he realized something had changed forever. He was no longer just a technician, and Lyrene was no longer just a princess under threat. Together, they had become a problem for anyone who underestimated humanity. And the galaxy was starting to pay attention. The Silver Horizon drifted quietly through calm space. Outside, stars stretched endlessly, unbroken and serene. Inside, life was slowly returning to normal, though nothing would ever be truly the same. Evan Hale walked beside Lyrene Valkesh in the main observation hall. The chaos from recent attacks had settled. Systems were repaired, security protocols reinforced, and the ship's passengers were safe. For most, it seemed like a close call, but for Evan, it had been the beginning of something far bigger than he had ever imagined. Lyrene walked with measured grace, her glowing presence subdued now, but unmistakable. Her guard stayed close, but she allowed Evan to walk beside her without hesitation. For the first time, he felt the weight of trust, not just from her, but from everyone around them. "You've changed the way this ship, and maybe the galaxy, sees humans," Lyrene said softly. Evan shrugged. "I just did what anyone would do, keep people alive, stay alive myself, and try not to blow anything else up." She smiled faintly, and for a moment it was just Lyrene, not the princess, not the legend, not the symbol of interstellar politics. "Humans are underestimated far too often," she said. "And yet time and again you show courage. I should have expected it perhaps, but—" her voice faltered slightly. "I did not." Evan felt a strange warmth in his chest. He looked out the observation window at the stars, considering how far he had come. From a simple maintenance job to crawling through engine tunnels, facing armed conspirators, and saving a princess. The human technician from Earth was now a story told quietly in whispers across the ship. "Princess," he said after a moment, "do you ever just get tired of all this drama?" She laughed softly, the sound almost musical. "Every day," she admitted. "But responsibility, it does not take breaks, neither does danger." He shook his head. "Somehow you make it look easy." Lyrene turned to face him. "You make it harder. By being human, you remind me that courage is not limited to titles or heritage. Even the smallest, most ordinary being can change everything." Evan could not help but grin. "Well, I am glad I could help in my small way." "Small," she repeated, arching an eyebrow. "You crawled into a sealed maintenance tunnel, faced armed attackers, and stabilized a ship that they expected to destroy. That is hardly small." He laughed, shaking his head. "I was just lucky." "Luck is a part of it," Lyrene agreed, "but so is resolve. Humans seem to have more of that than anyone expects." The hall behind them opened as engineers and crew members moved freely again. The ship was repairing itself, but the stories were spreading. Whispers of a human who had stood beside the princess, who had saved the ship, were already circulating among the passengers and crew. An officer approached cautiously. "Princess Valkesh, the council wishes to meet with you again. They have heard of the human's actions." Lyrene nodded. "We will go," she glanced at Evan, "and you will come with us. It is time they understand what has happened and who stands beside me. Evan followed, unsure what to expect. The council chamber was already bustling with representatives. Their eyes widened as Lyrene entered, Evan at her side. Whispers spread through the room. Some doubted, others stared in awe. Lyrene addressed them. "The threat to this vessel has been neutralized," she said. "And it was not just the royal guards who ensured that. A human technician, Evan Hale, stood with us. His courage prevented disaster and saved countless lives." Evan felt the weight of dozens of eyes on him. For a moment the room was silent. Then murmurs began, some incredulous, others impressed. A representative from the Lyre, tall and ethereal, spoke first. "You speak of a human as though he is equal to trained officers." Lyrene's eyes were steady. "I speak of actions, not titles. He did what few others could do." Evan cleared his throat. I just reacted," he said quietly. "I did what anyone would if someone's life was at stake." "Few would have," Lyrene said firmly. "That is why the galaxy must see that humans are not weak, nor easily dismissed." Another voice rose, sharp and cautious. "Princess, with respect, are you suggesting humans be given a position of influence?" "I am suggesting," she replied, "that the galaxy recognizes the value of all species, even the smallest, even the seemingly insignificant." Evan's heart pounded. This was bigger than anything he had ever imagined. A single human's actions, his actions, were now a symbol, not of conquest but of courage, determination, and the ability to make a difference. After the council meeting ended, Lyrene walked with him through the quieter corridors of the ship. They passed the sections damaged in the earlier attacks. Engineers worked methodically, restoring systems. Guards still patrolled, but there was no longer fear in the air, only respect. "You changed a lot today," Lyrene said. "Not just the council, not just the passengers. You changed the way people see humans." Evan looked down. "I didn't ask for that, he paused. "I just wanted to do the right thing." "That is exactly why it matters," she said. "Courage for the sake of courage is rare. Most act for reward, for recognition, or for fear. You acted because it was right." He shook his head, trying to deflect the praise. "I'm still just a technician from Earth." Lyrene reached out, resting her hand lightly on his arm. "Today, you are more than that. You are proof that humanity is capable of more than anyone believed." Evan felt a strange warmth, both humbling and proud. "Guess that means I have to live up to it now," he said quietly. "You already have," she said. Days passed and the Silver Horizon continued its journey. Life aboard the ship returned to routine, though nothing was ordinary anymore. Passengers gave Evan respectful nods as he passed. Crew members consulted him when systems seemed tricky. He was still a human technician, but one whose presence now carried weight. Lyrene often found him in the observation hall. They would stand silently, watching the stars together. Words were unnecessary. They had faced danger, shared trust, and proven that even across differences of species, courage could unite them. One evening, as the stars stretched endlessly, Lyrene spoke quietly. "Evan, the galaxy has many dangers. You will face more than this." Evan smiled faintly. "I think I can handle it." "You underestimate nothing," she asked. "Never," he said, "but I'm not alone." Lyrene's hand brushed his, a small gesture of reassurance. "Nor are you." Later, at a ceremonial event aboard the ship, Lyrene publicly acknowledged his actions. Representatives and passengers applauded. Holographic news systems transmitted the story to nearby star systems. Across the galaxy, whispers spread. A human had stood beside a princess, had saved lives, and had done so without weapons, without fleets, and without expecting reward. The story grew, becoming legend. Humans were no longer underestimated. They were dangerous, resilient, and capable of extraordinary deeds. Evan stood quietly as Lyrene received congratulations from diplomats, nobles, and allies. He did not feel pride, at least, not the kind of boastful pride. Instead, he felt something quieter, stronger, responsibility. Lyrene approached him, eyes glowing softly in the light of the hall. "You have made history today," she said. "But more importantly, you have changed hearts. You have shown that humanity is not defined by size, speed, or strength. It is defined by courage, by the choice to act when others hesitate." Evan nodded. "I'll remember it," he said. "And I will not forget," she said. "Your name, your deeds, your humanity, they will be honored wherever I go." For the first time, Evan realized that he was no longer just a human technician traveling among stars. He was part of a story larger than himself, a story that would inspire, that would change the galaxy's view of Earth forever. As the silver horizon continued its journey, the stars seemed brighter, endless possibilities stretching before them. Evan walked beside Lyrene, no longer simply a passenger, no longer invisible. He had become proof that humanity, small and underestimated as it was, could stand against impossible odds and succeed. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, far beyond their view, the legend of a human who stood with the most beautiful princess of the stars began to grow, an enduring testament to courage, resolve, and the extraordinary power of a single human heart. Evan smiled as he looked out at the stars. Whatever challenges awaited, he knew one thing: humans had earned their place in the galaxy, and he would never forget the day he stood beside a princess and changed the course of history forever. The journey was far from over, but the silver horizon now carried more than passengers. It carried hope, proof, and a new chapter in the story of humanity among the stars. And Evan Hale, the ordinary human from Earth, had become extraordinary.